What do you think of this?
Well, for one, I think it's impossible to look at anything from a one-sided view, because if you say co-conspirator, if you just said that the black woman was the conspirator, then that would say, okay, well, this is where I firmly stand. But to say co-conspirator, I'll go back to that and say it definitely takes two. No, I won't condone under any circumstances someone stepping outside of the boundaries of their marriage, a pastor stepping across the borderlines of just pastoring a church to now kind of trying to lure women in and using his pastoral powers, I guess, to basically apprehend a woman. At the same time, I don't think that there's a way to say, okay, it's just her fault or she's the brunt of it. Now, as far as saying she's the women hold 75% of the church, I would like to know where those statistics come from. I know we've talked about it many times. When you think about statistics and their viewpoint, you have to first consider where those numbers come from. Is this a number that's made up? Is there a resource where you can find these numbers? Yes, we know for many years women have outnumbered men in the church, but it definitely depends on the church. For one, it's not saying all churches. I don't know about 75%, and I also can't say that her money that she's using to tithe to the church has anything to do with whether or not she has any dealings with the pastor or anyone else in the church who is inside the grounds of a marriage. So I feel like his ground points are definitely shaky at this time.
Dr. Carroll, we do have you back on the air. Would you like to respond to Mr. Joe's statement?
Yeah, I think Ray Charles could see that the black church is overly populated with black females. I don't think it takes a college degree to look at that and figure that out. Black men are not there. Now, if you want to dispute 75%, that's fine. You could dispute 75%. But at the end of the day, what you're going to have to come to terms with is that the black church is dominantly and overwhelmingly fulfilled with black women. And nobody can dispute that. Now, when you talk about the reason and how the church stays afloat, it stays afloat off of the money that she gives. And this is just not, you can go across the board. You can go south, east, and west. In any denomination, you're going to have an overwhelming majority of the members in that church are going to be females. Black men are not in church, and there's a reason why they're not. But and I imagine we'll get to that later. But I mean, if you want to dispute whether or not this woman is a co-conspirator, it's real simple. It's not that hard. And here's how you know she's a co-conspirator. The black church is dead. Now, that may come as a shock to some people. That may surprise some people, but the black church is dead. Socially, she's dead. Morally, she's dead. Spiritually, she is dead. And the reason why she's dead is not because I say she's dead, because the people that she's supposed to be caring to are spiritually, morally, and socially dead. So it's not me that's calling them that. It's the condition of the people that call them dead. So, and nobody can deny that. Look at black folks. Are you serious? In any black community, you have over 150, maybe even more, churches standing on each corner, a cheap crackhead. And then look at the conditions in those communities. You can blindfold yourself and walk down the street. You're gonna bump into a black church. But look at the community. So if the church is dead, the question obviously has to become, who killed it? And we know who killed it. First of all, men who weren't called to preach set themselves up as hirelings and pastors, and that has been enabled by black women. So therefore, at that point, when she enables this guy to pull the chicanery and the trickery and the skullduggery that he pulls, she is an enabler, she is a co-conspirator, and the blame falls right on her just like it falls on him.
When you say the church being dead, you know, when you talk about something dead, at one time it meant it was alive. So there was a point in which I'm assuming that the church, quote unquote, was alive. Tell me what that point was. Tell me at what point did that stop? And you can give me a timeline. You can give me what was going on at that particular moment in time or in that particular dispensation, but explain to me in your words, where do you think it went wrong?
Well, I think that any time the church, obviously, when you look at our ancestors and you look at what they had to endure, slavery, you look at Jim Crow, legalized segregation, Reconstruction, the black church was a focal point of those black communities. The black church was there actively involved. You understand what I'm saying? Hello?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, the black church was actively involved. The black church was involved in those communities, and this is the reason why when the Ku Klux Klan wanted to attack the black community, they burnt the black church. Now, did they burn it because they wanted to roast marshmallows? Of course not. They burnt the black church because that black church stood as a symbol to the very heart and life vein of that community. Education came out the black church. Business out the black church. You could go to the black church, it healed people. It wiped the tears from our eyes during some of the bitterest times in this nation's history. So when Ku Klux Klan wanted to get at black people, they burnt that black church because that black church stood as a beacon of light and represented that black community. Now, today, the Ku Klux Klan would be asking y'all to build black churches because this modern-day black church serves as a beacon, a monument of spiritual and religious failure. And if you want to start at look at a starting point of when the decline of this institution took place, when black folks climbed into the bed with white liberals, right around the 60s, when white liberals began to have influence in the black community, because think about it, historically the black community has always been a conservative community. Historically, we've always been conservative, but then all of a sudden something changed. And when the 60s came along with this love generation and you could do what you want to do and, don't condemn him because he's gay, he was born that way, this political correctness, and for the life of me, I can't understand how a church can preach the gospel and be politically correct. They're diametrically opposed. And when you had that take place, you had the beginning of the end for this black church because now you have guys who stand up in the pulpit and tell that church, listen, I have a baby outside my wedlock, outside my marriage. And then you have people sitting in the pews saying, oh, that's okay, Pastor. Everybody sins. That's all right. So now he has babies all throughout the congregation, all throughout the city because he's just a man. Let's not condemn him. Let's not hold him to a standard because he says God has called him to preach. Now, you remember, you got that Bible. Y'all study y'all's Bible. What happened to the priest when he went behind the Holy of Holies and he wasn't fit? What happened to him? Why did they wrap that rope around him and wrap that veil on that priest? And when he went behind that veil to offer up sacrifices for the sins of the nation, and he wasn't fit, what did God do to that guy? He struck him down, and they carted him out from behind that veil because you know what? He wasn't fit. And the pulpit is an archetype for going behind that veil. And if God was striking these guys down today for not being fit standing in these pulpits, there wouldn't be a pastor nowhere preaching in these pulpits.
Dr. Carroll, I seem to be getting things off of the chat room and off some IMs here. Ms. Joe, go ahead, please, by all means.
Well, I mean, one, I would like to respectfully say we're kind of mixing everything in there. Anytime you go too far extreme on anything, people tend to tune you out. So I would say, is there an issue in the black church? There's an issue in the church as a whole. But in the black church, yes, there are issues. Yes, you do have infidelity. Yes, you do have adultery. Yes, you do have those sins that are going on. However, I don't think it is completely ridiculous to say that the brunt of it lays on the black woman because she makes up a large portion of the church. And the numbers are important because if you can't tell me what amount or what percentage she actually makes up, then you can't actually validate your viewpoint stating that she's the brunt of the co-conspirators that helped bring the
You know what? That is absolutely...
Also, I'll let you speak. Just one moment. Also, having that said, not just saying that I believe that's false, saying that she's the co-conspirator. I know there are many pastors out there that definitely take advantage of their powers as a pastor, but there are some good pastors. Just like there are some women that may go after